Hi everyone, okay, welcome to your mobility session for your ankles. We're going to start off with the ankles today. This is a great mobility session to really start to delve down and loosen up the ankles, so then we can start to build some strength through a bigger range of motion, which is all important. First thing we need to do though is a little test to make sure where our ankles are, and the exercises that we're going to be started doing in this program are actually starting to make a difference. So test today, we just need a tape measure. A mental tape measure is best, but if you've got a ruler or anything else like that, then that's brilliant. You need a wall, ideally without a skirting on, so you can put the tape measure right up against the wall like so. Okay, I'm just going to use a tree for demonstration today, and what you're going to do is you're going to place your foot next to the tape measure so you can measure the distance that the toe is away as you drive the knee forward over the end of the toe, and that's what we call dorsiflexion, and that's what we're testing on this one today. Okay, so you're going to have the hands on the wall. You're going to just have the weight on the front leg, and you're going to drive that knee in towards the wall. If it touches easily, then move the foot back, and you want to get into a position where you can just touch that knee to the wall, but the heel is still in contact. Okay, measure that distance away from the wall, and then move on and measure the distance on the next leg. Okay, so that's your first task to do, is to measure your dorsiflexion angle, how close that knee or how far that knee can go over the end of the toe, and that will really establish a great baseline to move forward, and then we can retest later to make sure that we're starting to gain some mobility in those ankles. So exercises wise, we're going to go through a couple of different exercises just to really start looking at your ankle flexibility. The first one we're going to do is just an ankle sit. So here, this is just to open up the front of the shins as well as down into the ankles, and we're going to practice here. Okay, so we can have a couple of different variants if this you find is easy. We're just going to sit down and see if we can just flatten the surface down into there. Okay, now we can start to lean back to put a little bit more pressure onto the heels to make the stretch a little bit more intense, if that's quite comfortable. Okay, and then we're just holding that position, and we're going to try and hold it for about 60 seconds. Okay, so we're going to do the first exercise for 60 seconds in that position. Now if you're finding that too easy, what we can do is just elevate the feet up and make that a deeper stretch, so you can just get something to push underneath the toes. Okay, and then what we can do is we can sit down into that stretch, and because we've made a bit more of a space, we can start to get into a deeper stretch into those ankles in that position. Okay, so that could be a couple of books or anything to just elevate the feet up comfortably, and then you can sit down and we can start leaning back into that stretch. So that's a fantastic way to start working that ankle flexibility. Next exercise is going to be into the samurai sit. Here what you're going to do is we're going to sit back, but we're going to curl the toes underneath you, and we're going to make sure that the heels stay in alignment just underneath your hips, and we're going to sit back, and here we're going to go for a deep stretch down through the big toe, and the plantar fascia will start stretching out into the back of the feet, into that ankle. Okay, so the first exercise is the ankle sit, where we have the feet flat. Second exercise we're going to do today is going to be the samurai sit, sitting in that position. Again, to increase the intensity, we can start to lean back and put a little bit more pressure onto those toes, and we're going to take some nice deep breaths and just try and relax those feet down into that position there. Okay, so once you've done that one, we're going to move up and we're going to go into our three-way stretch. Here we just need to have something to elevate the feet or the toes up slightly whilst in a standing position. So I'm just going to use the dumbbells here today to show you. You can use a couple of books or a slant board is very useful to do this exercise on, so a board which is a 30-degree angle, or you could use a curb or by the roadside, or anything which we can just elevate the toes up into that angle. Okay, and the first stretch is just going to be straight onwards, so we're keeping nice and into alignment. The heels are wanting contact in the ground. Okay, and that's really important because it just sends signals up to the body to be able to relax whilst we're going into a deeper mobility exercise or a deeper stretch. If we just use the stairs and we're hanging the heels off the end, then that can be quite an intense stretch and we can't actually relax into it and things start to tighten up. So actually having contact with the heels down on the ground make it for a much better release into those calf muscles, into those Achilles and that position. Okay, then we're going to hold that there for about 30 seconds or so, nice deep breaths. Then we're going to turn the feet outwards. Okay, so the heels are going to be pointing outwards and we're going to do the same thing. So you just angle as much as you can, okay, and then we're just going to lean forward, keep the back up nice and straight, nice deep breaths, just getting into a different angle of those stretches. And you're going to hold another 30 seconds in that position. Once you've done that one, we're going to turn the feet inwards, okay, again upright and then lean inwards, okay, keeping nice and upright with there, okay. So it's a three-way calf stretch in that position, okay. So well, first off, we're going to keep the feet straight with the heels in contact with the ground, then we're going to turn them outward, okay, and then you're going to turn it inward, and we're going to go for about 30-40 seconds on each of those calf stretches, okay. Next, we're going to practice that dorsiflexion and have a little bit more of a mobility thing into here, okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to lunge down into this position, okay, so the back knee's on the floor and it's nice and comfortable, and the front leg we're just going to move into the center of the body. So what we're going to do is going to place both hands on the ground, and here what we're going to do is we're going to help use the upper body to drive the knee forward whilst maintaining contact with the heel, okay. So it looks a bit like that. So you drive forwards, come back up, and we drive forwards and we come back up. This is really good for improving that dorsiflexion that we tested at the beginning, and we can start practicing trying to drive into a little bit more flexion, and we're going to do about 10-12 repetitions. When we're driving forward, remember to always try and go over the second toe and not the big toe, because you don't want the foot to collapse into that action there, okay. When we're driving over, we're going to drive slightly outward, okay, with the knee, and then come back. So you're pushing slightly outward and then coming back, okay. It's a really good one to start working on that dorsiflexion, like I say, to bring it into there. And then the final fifth exercise for this mobility session is going to be the rolls. Here we're going to practice inverting the foot, so we're going to be in a standing position. Most of the weight's going to start off on the back leg, so we can turn the foot over and then push a little bit of pressure in that position and then roll back, okay. So we're just rolling and then coming through. Ankle sprains are mainly caused when we don't have the flexibility in those ligaments and tendons coming onto the outside of the foot, and when they get overstretched they tighten up and then we cause a tear or a little bit of fibrous damage within that. If we have great flexibility that way, we can start to learn to put a lot of pressure into that range, gaining that strength in that flexibility range of motion, and therefore really bulletproofing ourselves from ankle sprains and as such. Okay, so it really helps with the performance. When we're trail running or we're doing anything, then often we can go over onto the ankle, twist it over, but if we've got the flexibility and the strength there, then it doesn't cause as much as a problem as it would if we didn't. So practicing those rolls is a really good fundamental way of building this mobility in there. So again, we're going to go for around about 10-15 repetitions of just practicing moving it through that roll, okay. The better you get at those, so first off, keep the weight on the back leg so we can really gain that mobility and flexibility into that sideways action onto that roll. But as you start to improve, just start to put a little bit more pressure onto it, eventually lifting that back leg off the ground whilst you're doing those rolls to the side, okay. Right, great stuff. So your task now is to go away and practice those 5 exercises. We've got that test to begin with, which will be a really useful thing to do to make sure that we are drawing a line in the sand. You know where you're at, and then we can retest later to improve, and then work on those 5 mobility exercises for the ankles, which will really help you bulletproof your system. Next, we're going to have a little look at your strengthening of these exercises, which will really help us go into a bigger range of motion, allowing us having that strength through there. Thanks very much, take care, and we'll speak soon.